Okay, so hello everyone. I hope you are doing well. Today we will discuss about one of the most important topic of system design, that is scaling. So first we will understand what is scaling and why should we learn it. Okay. So the first point that we need to understand what is scaling. So scaling, as you generally know that you are scaling something. There is a scale, you are scaling something. Okay. So for example, you have some piece of code and you have something and you're scaling it to some bigger one. Okay, so that is what we call scaling. Okay, so in system design world scaling basically means, in system design or scaling basically means, for example, you have a service. Okay, you have a service and okay, so how we can basically understand this scaling. Suppose you have a website. Okay, you have a website and that's a e-commerce website that we can say, and you know that that you are getting a good amount of traffic on that particular website. Okay, you are getting good amount of traffic. Now there's a time when you're getting more traffic and there's a time when you're getting less traffic. Okay, so now so the your basically system should handle those many traffic, so you need scaling. Okay, so you need scaling for that. Now scaling scaling means your website should handle those many requests without any failure. Okay, so that means there's a scaling. You're scaling your system so that it could handle those many requests. If there are million of requests that is coming on your website, so you are able to handle them. Okay, so there are two type of scaling. Okay, so there are two type of scaling. One is vertical scaling, another is horizontal scaling. Okay, so vertical scaling means, for example, what we can see is that vertical scaling would be defined as, okay, so let's say this one, this one, this one. This is a vertical scaling. We will go one by one. This is okay. Now we will see. Okay. So vertical scaling. So first we will discuss what is vertical scaling. Vertical scaling means, suppose you have a system, you have a service. Okay, you have a service which have around 1 GB of RAM and around 8 GB of SSD. Okay. Now this particular service is responsible for handling all the requests that are coming on your e-commerce website. Okay. Now suppose that you suppose a number of number of requests are coming on your websites. Now how you can scale this particular service? So one is the vertical scaling. What in this particular scaling you does, you basically increase the memory for a particular system. Okay, so whatever service you have, you just scale its memory, you just scale its hard drive, so that it could basically handle all those requests. That is a vertical scaling. Vertical scaling simply means you are just increasing the memory, you are just increasing the nodes of a particular on a single service. Okay, whereas horizontal scaling, horizontal scaling means suppose you have a system that is of 1 GB and that is responsible for handling those many requests. Now you just define another system, that is of same memory, that is 1 GB, and it is also handling those many requests. Okay, so what we can say is that earlier those many requests are handled by single node. Now the same number of requests are handled by these two servers. Okay, these two servers, and they will be of same 1 GB, what we can say 1 GB of memory and word, and the CPU will be same. Okay, so in horizontal scaling we are saying that we are scaling the system in a horizontal way. We are adding more and more units of system, we are adding more and more units of nodes. So what we need in horizontal scaling, we need something called load balancer. Okay, so what load balancer is? Load balancer is generally used when you have a different number of systems, different number of nodes which are serving a request. So there should be a load balancer that will send the request equally to all the service. Okay, so what load balancer is? Load balancer is basically how what we I can say is that, let's say you have this system. Okay, one system is this one system, one node is this one node is, there are four nodes. So you should have a load balancer in between of this. So suppose user is searching something, this is your e-commerce website, what you can say, this is your e-commerce website, and where user is searching something. Now this load balancer comes into the picture and it distribute the request equally among all the nodes that are present in the system. So this is what we call horizontal scaling, and for that you need load balancer. Whereas in vertical scaling you do not need load balancer. Why you do not need load balancer? Because you have only one system. This is your system. Okay, this is the user. The request directly goes to the system and it will respond. It will just give back to the give back response to you. Okay, now we will see what is the advantage and the disadvantages of vertical scaling. Vertical scaling. Okay, so the vertical the advan the data let's go one by one advantages of vertical scaling. Okay, so the advantage of vertical scaling is that your data is consistent. Since you're storing all the data in one node, so the data is consistent, and in your subsequent request the data will be consistent. Okay, whereas in horizontal scaling the data is not consistent at the same time. Suppose you have, what we can say is that, suppose it is doing some updates, so the data gets updated in this particular node. This The data gets updated in this node, but it does not get updated to this node. So there it will take some time to sync up the data from this to this, so that all the system will have same amount of data, same amount. So it takes times to consist to make the data consistent among all the system. Okay, now the second basically what we say in there, the disadvantage of vertical scaling is that it's a single point of failure. Okay, so what single point of failure means is that, let's say this system gets failed, let's say its RAM gets corrupted, then the whole your whole system, your whole website will get impacted. All the users that are coming on your website will not be able to access your app website. Why? Because your system, your backend is completely corrupted just because the RAM is corrupted. So it's a single point of failure. Whereas in horizontal scaling, let's say this particular, let's say the RAM for this particular node gets corrupted, so it will not able to handle the request. But there are other nodes, there are other system, there are other nodes that can handle the request. So what this load balancer will do, it will redirect all these requests that are coming to this to there. It will equally distribute the request to all these three nodes. So your website will not get impacted, your user will not get impacted, your user will not face anything. Okay, so that's the major advantage of horizontal scaling. Now uh, the another advantage of horizontal scaling is that it is resilient. Resilient means that basically it is resilient to failures. So if any failures come, it is resilient, because what I have already told you, that if let's say this particular nodes gets corrupted or it gets failed, there are other nodes that can accept, that can handle those requests that are coming to load balancer. Okay, so there your user will not be impacted and it is resilient to the failures. Okay, now the thing is that now when should you use a vertical scaling and when should you use horizontal scaling? Let's come into the picture. Let's discuss about that. When can you use vertical scaling and when can you use horizontal scaling? Okay, so suppose you have a website, you have a e-commerce website. Let's say you have a e-commerce website, and so in your e-commerce website, you have a small website, you are just a startup, and you do not want to basically go into the whole load balancing thing. So you can just use a single you can just use a single node, and you can vertically scale it. Since the number of clients are very less, so you can just vertically scale it. So you, for that it is useful for you. But if it is a big multinational company, if it is a big multinational company, so they don't want to get a failure to the user. They want to be resilient. The sli of that product will be 99%. So it means that it should be available 99% time to the users. Okay, so it means that it should not get, the user should not get any failures while interacting with your website. Okay, so MNC companies whose products are very big, whose customers are very big, so they use horizontal scaling. Okay, and in between they use load balancer that equally distribute the request to all the different nodes of the system. Okay, so here you can also think of this in this way, that let's say something happens, your system got corrupted, or this gets failed, this whole node gets failed. Okay, your client will not be impacted. So you have such a website is that if even if this website gets impacted, so the you it does not impact on your business. So in that way you can use vertical scaling. But if you think that if your website gets impacted, and if mm, your user is not able to interact with your website, and it will impact your business, then you should go with the horizontal scaling. Okay, so in the basically in how in the current world it generally works in MNCs or in different companies or in startups. So they combinations of combination of combination of vertical scaling plus horizontal scaling. Okay, vertical scaling is means that vertically we have some limit. Okay, so we cannot scale, we cannot vertically scale it to infinite number of times. There is some limit. Okay, there is some limit of a system that it can only we can only increase the RAM from 10 GB to 32 GB. We cannot extend more than that. Okay, so we have to think in that way also. So it's a combination. So we do a combination of vertical scaling plus horizontal scaling, which is a little bit we increase the memory, and then if we think that we are getting more load, so we'll add a new system, and the another benefit of horizontal scaling is that suppose you have a website, any e-commerce website, whatever you say, and you think that at a particular time, at a sale time, there is a sale that is going on in the website, and you know that when there's a sale, so the traffic will be more on your website. So in that way, what you can say, you can buy more system, you can buy basically more nodes, so that it can handle those many requests. Once your sale ends, you know that the request will be less, so you can just basically go with the less number of nodes. You can just you don't use that, and you can just leave that it. Okay, so in that way you can use horizontal scaling. So it depends. Basically, vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. It depends how you use what is your website, what is your application, and what is your what is your business. Basically, how much does it impact your business? So generally, we do horizontal scaling, not vertical scaling. Okay. So yeah, that was all from my side. I hope you really enjoyed this video. So please do like, share, and subscribe, because it motivates me a lot to make more such videos for you. So bye bye guys. Thank you.